Welcome everybody to Gas Up, where we discuss business topics through the lens of pop culture. Coming to you from the safety of our homes, here are our hosts, John Case and Joe Remley. Joe, how you doing today?
Hey man, I'm good. I'm excited to be here. This is our first show, and we don't know what it's going to be yet, which is the beautiful thing, right? Could it be a podcast? We don't know. Is it going to go out on YouTube? Maybe.
Yeah, I don't
But we're
know.
definitely we're excited to be here, and we're excited to share our knowledge and our experience with our listeners. Hopefully, your faithful listeners out there will continue to follow us as we grow.
That's the idea, right? So we're just calling it the show because we really don't know kind of what shape it's going to take.
Well,
It's
we're
kind
calling
of
it the gas up
well, the
because we
Gas
want to
Up, right,
gas
right.
you up. We want to get you ready for your week. We want to get you thinking about business and entrepreneurship. But it is going to be the show for a while as we figure out what sort of mediums we want to kind of push out to.
I think that's part of the excitement, right? We've had this idea kind of percolating, kind of sitting there. We've been going back and forth, riffing on what it could be, and this is the first time where we're actually trying to execute, get it going, and ultimately see what we can put together. And it's funny that we're starting here because it reminds me of a quote from George Washington Carver that states, "Start where you are with what you have." Make something of it and never be satisfied. And it actually kind of piggybacks off another quote, very, very similar actually, from Arthur Ashe, which says, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And so in our conversations earlier this week, as we were putting everything together, I thought of those two quotes because obviously we're kind of putting this together as we go along, right? As a matter of fact, you have your mic set up and running. I ordered mine. Yeah, there you go. You got the mic. I'm still using the headphones here as I'm waiting for my mic to show up.
We fear that your mic might have burned down in a Amazon warehouse fire. Nobody was hurt, but they did lose a lot of good merch. There were TVs, there were electronics. So one might suspect that your microphone, mine got out just in time, and
Yeah.
yours might have got caught in the skirmish.
Well, delivery date hasn't changed, so ideally, hopefully by next Thursday, next Friday, we're recording on a Sunday. Hopefully, it'll be available, and you guys will get to see the evolution of the show. Right, part of the quote of "Start with what you have," I think, is so powerful because oftentimes we think we have to have everything perfect. We have to have everything laid out perfectly of what you're going to do before you get started. And the reality is, in most of my ventures in life, regardless of whether it's in school, employment, even relationships, right? It's taking that first step, regardless of where you are, whether it's
Yeah.
talking to the individual, getting the application, figuring out how to set, even us with this, right? How are we going to do this? What kind of medium are we going to utilize? Where is it going to go? But at the end of the day, if we don't have content, well, then it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
part of the fun part and part of the challenges is really getting going. I think that's the hardest part. Getting going is, and then everything else slowly starts to take shape and to be formed as you're going along. And that's part of the fun. Part of what we want to offer to our audience, to our community, is that you get to see those changes, that you get to see that evolution. Right now, both of us sitting in our respective homes, and then ideally, as things progress, you never know where this could go.
Yeah, we want to be in studio, right? That'd be
Yeah,
great.
that would
If
be
we could
nice to
get
have
if we
an.
could get back to that point, I'm sure everyone would like to do a lot of things right now, but we're kind of still waiting it out. One of the things that comes to mind when you told me about in pre-production, when you brought this idea of this quote from George Washington Carver and also Arthur Ashe's very similar quote, I actually did some research and I found another quote that I believe improves on it by Maya Angelou, and she said, "Do the best you can until you know better, and then when you know better, do better." And I think that's a great quote to not only kind of tie a bow on everything that we've just talked about, but also it kind of frames it in the times that we're in. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and we all know we can do better. And we're starting. I mean, we also can't deny that we know better now, where everything is obviously streamed and talked about, and there's a much faster medium for information. So now that we know better, we should do better.
I
So
agree.
I definitely like this quote for sure.
I think it's one of those things where part of I think part of what humans like to see is progress. I think sometimes there's a level of frustration that sets in when you don't see things moving in the direction that you want, and so that progress is powerful. And as the quote kind of highlights, as you begin to know better, you begin to do better, you begin to learn more, you begin to incorporate more things, ideally, right? You begin to incorporate different things, different
Right.
tactics, different ideas. And applying that to business, that's really kind of what you have to really be cognizant of. Most of the folks that I've talked to in a business setting, they pretty much say the same thing, which is, I just started doing it. I stopped thinking about, because sometimes you get caught up in this idea of going to the courses, reading the
Hmm.
books, watching the videos, and you get into this. Have you ever heard of the term analysis paralysis?
Hmm. Yeah,
Essentially,
you try to get too many things lined up, and it just kind of cripples you from
exactly,
taking
you
that
just
first
become
step.
overwhelmed. Exactly
Yeah.
right. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at that, I'm
Yep.
analyzing this, I'm reading that, and then all of a sudden, all your time is spent on that, and you never execute on your idea, on your vision, on
Mm.
your goal, whatever that might be. And so, part of what you have to really think about, if you are thinking about maybe jetting out and starting your own business, for example, or even if you are currently employed but you're thinking about getting a promotion, right? Maybe switching departments, maybe going in a different direction. Really take inventory of what you have available. We really sometimes don't even understand how many resources we have at hand.
Yeah.
We kind of focus on what we don't have as opposed to what we do have, and sort of changing that mentality as an entrepreneur, I think, is very powerful, because once you really start focusing on what you have available, what resources are there, all of a sudden different things begin to pop up and new opportunities are present that you might not have ever contemplated. Really, is there anything like that you've seen as you started to jet out and do things on your own?
Well, I was gonna say, so being your own business or being an entrepreneur puts you closer to this mindset than ever before. If, like, for me, I was an employee, quote unquote, for most of my career in kind of entrepreneurial type roles, but like I was always given the leeway to conduct business however I saw fit. But I was an employee. I was getting a paycheck, whether or not I was successful didn't matter. That money was still coming every week. So when I stepped out on my own, this mentality just has to kind of naturally be built into you, right? You kind of have to be willing to take that first step, regardless if everything's lined up for you, regardless if you think you're going to come off looking unprepared or unprofessional or late to the game. You just got to kind of get out there and see what type of businesses the market will have for you, and really just kind of push your brand forward and say, look, I'm out on my own now. I'm doing my own thing. Um, and start with your network and kind of work your way out. Start with the people that are closest to you, and work your way out to some of your other clients out there. So I think
Oh,
it resonates more with me now than ever before, for sure.
absolutely. And for example, it really spoke to me with this venture that you and I are putting together, right? It was one of those things that, as I've told you in the past, this isn't my first foray into this medium. I've tried on different occasions to maybe get a podcast going, to maybe start a show with
Mm,
either on my own or with other individuals. And the challenge has always been getting the ball rolling. Not going to
right.
lie. Sometimes life starts to throw things your way and you begin to get a little sidetracked. You begin to get a little distracted. And the thing that you feel sort of uncomfortable in doing and stepping out of your comfort zone kind of falls by the wayside. And
Hmm.
so I really felt that this was a great opportunity to just say, look, it is what it is. I have my phone, I have my laptop, I have my headphones. That's
Hmm.
it. Let's see what we can create with this, right? This is sort of a blank canvas. These are my tools, and
Yeah.
what can I create with it that will hopefully be able to help me express myself better? That'll hopefully be able to give folks some insight as to what I do and who I am as an individual, and likewise maybe be able to help my business as well. So the idea is just kind of take what you have, start working with it, and see what you can create. So
Yeah, it's a little nerve wracking, right? Because you put something out in the world, and it's kind of hard to reel it back nowadays. It's got a digital footprint for sure,
right.
and so as soon as we push this first episode out, it's out there in the world, and then if we never followed up on it again, people would say, "Well, what was that?" Is
Right.
you had one
Yeah.
you had one show and then never again. So I think the beauty of it is, though, by doing this, we're saying we're committed. We're in this for the long haul, and we're going to continue to get better every single week. And we hope that our listeners slash viewers, whatever medium we put out, can ride that wave with us and look back in a year or hopefully more and say, wow, remember when these guys were recording in their houses on Zoom, and now look where they are. So
Yeah,
it's an exciting time for sure.
absolutely. I definitely am curious to see what we can build with this and kind of juxtapose where we are today to hopefully bigger and better things down the road, right? That's the idea.